Most charter operators own the aircraft, they fly the routes on a regular basis, but they don't own the route on search. Today we're going to look into the route private jet London to Geneva and audit a charter operator's visibility for that route on Google and AI platforms. So the business we've chosen is Global Jet. I've got no affiliation to this business, but they do fly this route and they have a base in Geneva, so it just kind of makes sense for this route. First things first, let's see if they're visible on Google search. Often what you'll find on most of these route keywords is the charter operator is just invisible. The search is just dominated by brokers and marketplaces. And looking through the first page here, that kind of sums that up. At the start, we can kind of see some of the lay of the land. So there's some sponsored results. There's some Google ads here, which is great. It means people are paying to advertise for this keyword. And there's an AI overview. So it just shows the kind of opportunity there is just on this one search page. Next, we want to see if Global Jet actually have a route page for this. So an easy way is just to run a Screaming Frog crawl, but let's just see if we can find it from the home page. So what you'll often find a lot of the time is most charter operators really invest heavily into that homepage, that hero section, that first impression of the brand. And it does make complete sense, but that's often where it ends. None of them really invest into building out route pages, into building out pages for specific events throughout the year. As we can see here, they have a great home section. If we click onto the menu here, they do have a destinations tab. They do have countries and cities in here, so they're nearly there, but that's kind of where it ends. None of these are clickable. They do have two city pages here, so they've got Geneva and New York, which is a great start. And scrolling through, they do have actual routes names there, but none of these are clickable. So they're just missing the actual route pages, Geneva to London and London to Geneva. If we actually look at this keyword on SEMrush, you can use Ahrefs, Moz, whatever you're using. There is fairly decent search volume for this keyword monthly and good cost per click data. If we scroll down and have a look at the top 10 competitors, obviously the usual people in the top 3, and they've all got fairly decent domain authority scores. Obviously this domain authority score will be different depending on the tool you use. But what is promising here is we can see Eton Aviation with a authority score of 6. So if they can get in the top 10, there's no reason Global Jet can't. And looking at Global Jet's domain, they've got a great domain authority score. So they should really be aiming for the top 3 for this keyword. They've got the business address in Geneva, they fly the route, and they've got a great domain authority score. So what they're missing is just that route page, and also a few other things that they're missing that we'll go into to get them that visibility on the AI platforms. One thing a lot of operators miss, and also brokers and marketplaces, is they don't go deep enough into specific events. So they obviously have the route page for private jet London to Geneva, for example, but they miss certain events throughout the year. For example, skiing events. Obviously, they're only seasonal, but you want the pages built for those. So private jet to St. Moritz, great volume and cost per click there as well. We've got private jet to Courchevel, also similar. Private jet to Verbier. Obviously, there's no data here, but that does not mean there's no actual demand for these routes. And there's loads of these throughout the year. There's Formula One. There's all sorts of events going on, which you could create a page for and just rank for that ready. Next, let's look at the competition. So let's see what we're up against. We've picked the top 3 pages here, and you often find a varying standard for these route-specific pages, but generally they all have similar things. They have a place to book. Typically they'll have more like light jets, medium jets, heavy jets. Sometimes they link to a specific page for that, and then from that page they also link to specific aircraft, which is the right way to go about this. Often they also have just some data about the airports, the specific aircraft that fly those routes, some FAQs as well, or just some reviews. So there's not really much you need to create on these route pages as long as there's unique information. So next, what we want to look at is just a common thing I see across most charter operators. often you'll see most of them have a fairly decent authority score. They've got loads of traffic and they're ranking for loads of keywords. But then when you actually go into the keywords, what they're ranking for and where that traffic is going, it's a similar story. So this is obviously just filtered for the top 10 and the UK. Most of these keywords are just mainly for jobs, for careers and recruitment. And it does make complete sense. They want the best staff, etc. for operating these aircraft and these FBOs. Also find them ranking for example, private jet Monaco. This is often when they've got an FBO there, they might have a Google business profile for that specific FBO, or they might just have a physical address there. And that's the reason why they're typically ranking for those keywords. Other keywords you'll typically see them ranking for are things like aircraft management, aircraft sales, and design and completion management. But none of them really have any route specific pages, which are the kind of things they're flying on a regular basis. Next, we want to look at global jets visibility across the AI platform. So there's two ways to do this. You can use a tool or you can do it the manual way. The manual way is just going into ChatGPT on an incognito window and just typing in a buyer intent prompt. So don't just type in private jet London to Geneva, because that's not really how someone searches. They often ask a question, and these days these questions, these prompts are just a lot more detailed and they're a lot more tailored to what they're after. We've just typed in how much is a private jet from London to Geneva and who should I book with? So fairly simple prompt. And what we're looking for here is one, who is recommended and what are the sources of retrieval. And here obviously we have the similar players from the Google search, Private Fly, Lunar Jets, etc. And what you can actually do, we've obviously seen who is recommended here. You can go down here and see the sources. And this is essentially ChatGPT showing you its cards. You know, where is it getting its information from? And aviation's a lot different to, for example, a plumber in London. If you type in who's the best plumber in London, what you'll start to see here is Check a Trade, Just a Trader, all those kind of directories. You don't really get that in aviation. It's not really a thing. You might see Avanode, for example, but typically not. So one way to start gathering this data is to get a spreadsheet. And there's a lot of free plugins. I'm using this citations plugin. So I literally just click this. It copies all of these sources of retrieval. And then I can go into this spreadsheet and just paste them into here. What I can do then is just change this to ChatGPT, copy this here, and then here is where I'd enter my prompt. And then essentially I'm running the same prompt across every AI platform. So I'll have Claude, Grok, Bing, etc., etc. And then what you'll start doing is doing the same thing for different prompts. And this is a time-consuming process, but it really gives you an idea of what are the common occurrences for the sources of retrieval. Who's really popping up across all of these platforms, and are you appearing or not? Using a paid tool, so I'm using Rankability here. Again, I've got no affiliation to Rankability. It's just a tool I use. So we typed in the same prompt to Rankability and added Global Jet there. And essentially on traditional, they are pretty much invisible. They're just not there at all. Two players, Private Fly and Lunar Jets, they are visible across every search platform. So Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and Brave. Now, it's a common misconception that ranking on Google guarantees being a source of retrieval or recommended on an AI platform. So for this prompt, we can clearly see that's not the case. So we've clicked Google here, and essentially this is the share of each engine's citations that also rank in Google. So essentially, how much do these AI platforms mirror what is seeing on Google? This can vary per prompt. So Perplexity, Gemini, and Grok is pretty much a mirror image of what it's seeing on Google. But then it begins to drop off for Brave, Claude, and then Google's AI mode and ChatGPT are pretty much not mirroring Google. So that's an opportunity there to see, where is ChatGPT and Google's AI mode getting its sources of information from. And this can change per search engine. So Bing is different again, Brave, DuckDuckGo. And as I said, this will change per prompt. So another prompt, Perplexity just might not marry up whatsoever. Now, these are all the citations, and what we're looking for is if GlobalJet is visible here, and unfortunately they're not. So they've got no visibility for a route they fly on Google or AI. And what we're also looking for is some opportunities. As said before, this isn't a plumber in London. There's no checker trade. There's no trusted trader. We're looking for opportunities. So in this case, we want to look at what type of page is being used as a source of retrieval. This is how to charter a private plane on cntraveler.com. And we're looking for other ones. James Nightingale. Just having a look through. Reddit, of course. Often you'll see obviously a lot of branded ones, but we're just trying to find the needles in the haystack, those opportunities. Times.com. And there may be some more here, and as you run more prompts, you'll see more opportunities appearing. And essentially the way you want to work this is the ones that you start to see across all of these prompts, they're kind of your number one target to get visibility on those. And the way you approach this can vary. So for example, this blog post on James Nightingale is from December the 10th, 2025. So perhaps it's a listicle, but this one's obviously not. If it is a listicle, then you'd obviously pitch to them, can I get listed on this listicle? This one is more just a blog post, and an opportunity here would be to suggest an update for 2026, for example. But if this is a blog post that's been paid for by another charter operator, then likely it's not going to be an opportunity. However, jamesnightingale.com might be accepting other opportunities specific to for a route you're flying, for example, private jet charter, London to Geneva. So the next opportunity is obviously making sure your route pages are available in all the different languages. If we have a look on here, they've only got English, French, Spanish, and Chinese. But if we actually look at Germany, Austria, Switzerland, there's a lot of volume here for private jet keywords. So having those available in the different languages. So let's wrap this up. GlobalJet flies this route, they operate the aircraft, and they have a base in Geneva, yet they've got no visibility across Google or AI. It's dominated by brokers and marketplaces. The first step for them is literally just to build a route page for this specific route, London to Geneva. Once that's done, I would just wait for that to be indexed and just to see where it pops into on the rankings. I'd imagine it would do pretty well because of their domain authority and obviously just their relevance to this route, their address, their kind of brands as a whole. And a lot of charter operators will find it really easy to start dominating these routes because of just what their brand is. They've got so much history in this. Once that's complete, I would start looking into the AI visibility. I would either start looking at these prompts yourself in ChatGPT, etc., and find a manual way to track these, or set up prompt tracking. What you're looking at is seeing what are the common sources of retrieval. Can you get visibility on those? If not, can you create your own visibility through either a guest post on one of these places, creating your own content that is linkable, some link bait, maybe a press wire related to this route. But if you're a charter operator, please comment below on a route you would like to be audited on, and I'll work on this for the next video. Thanks for your time.